Fun fact 55. I'm going to call it The Deer in the Woods, the Deer in the Wilderness. When I was a little kid, I'd go camping with my parents. And we'd go fishing. We'd go fishing at different lakes in a camp area. And I was fishing. And we were fishing in a lake called Snag Lake, go figure. And then my line kept breaking. I was 5 years old. I didn't know how to tie a new line on at the end of the line with hooks and a little weight. And I was losing some weights and hooks, but we had a lot. And once the first one happened, somebody tied a new one on for me. And I tried a different area, so maybe I wouldn't get snagged so much, because there were parts of the lake that weren't as snaggy. And I tried another area, and I got snagged again, broke the line. I asked somebody to tie a new end on the line. And I went to another area that didn't look like it had any snags in it at all. And the line broke again. Didn't catch any fish. Caught a lot of grass and twigs and broke the line. When I went for the third time to ask somebody to tie on an end, I wasn't received very well. I was only 5 though, but it was like, I'm tired of tying this on for you. When are you going to learn how to do it yourself? Get away from me. I had a fish on the line and you scared it away. Or, I'm tired of doing this for you. I'm not going to do it again. Why don't you just go walk in the woods or something and enjoy nature instead of trying to catch a fish? And then the other people I couldn't find that were in our group, in my family. And so I just wandered off into the woods. I was feeling pretty sad at 5. And I wanted to fish, but I couldn't. And so I tried to tie the line on myself, and I couldn't do it. So I went off into the woods and walked a long ways, just exploring, not enjoying myself, but I was crying. And I was feeling, even at the age of 5, and I think even before then, that I didn't belong in the world. That these people didn't really care about me. That were my family. I felt like if I just wandered off into the woods, it'd be a long time before they missed me and maybe tried to look for me. But they might not really even care that I was missing. That's how I felt. And I was crying. And I was hurt. And I found this clearing in the woods. There was this huge boulder in the woods. And I was 5, so it was huge to me. But I could lay down on it. And the sun was coming through the trees and was just hitting this boulder in this little clearing, and then everything around it was trees and a little darker. The sun wasn't making it through. And I lay down on the boulder and I laid in the sun, and the sun felt good, but I was still crying. Then in front of the boulder there was a small pond, and it wasn't a very deep pond. You could kind of see the floor of the forest underneath it, like grass growing through it, but it was still like, it was water. It's not like if I walked through it, maybe I would have been up to my waist or up to here or something as a 5-year-old. And I just kind of stared at the pond and the clearing, and it was beautiful, but I was still crying. Then all of a sudden, a deer walked out of the woods. And even thinking about it now makes me want to cry a little bit more, but the deer walked out of the woods. It was a doe. I believe it was a doe. Don't remember horns, but there might have been little horns. And I walked to the pond and started drinking. And it was like, as soon as the deer walked out of the woods, all the little wood noises, the chirping, the crickets, the frogs, all of that went silent. It was like time had stopped in that moment as the deer was in that little glade with its head down, drinking out of the little pond. And then it turned and looked at me. And I just felt like it was saying to me, it wasn't scared or anything of me. And it saw me. And that's what I realized, that deer saw me. And I felt like I belonged for one moment as it looked at me. And it made me feel like it didn't matter what members of my family thought of me. It didn't matter if I belonged. It didn't matter if they were mean and hurt me. It didn't matter if I was fishing or not. It was kind of like everything happens for a reason. You were meant to be in this moment in time, right now. And just because they don't see you, the deer kind of made me feel like he was saying, but I see you. I see you. And others will see you. And that's what's important. So don't stay in the woods. I was thinking, I don't need to eat. I'll just lay here and just become a pile of bones. And I was 5. But I was always unusual, so it doesn't matter. The deer said, no, you need to go back, and know that all that other stuff doesn't matter right now. So, and then it turned and walked back in the woods, and I laid there for a long time hoping it would come back, of course. I wanted it to come back. But all the sound came back. All the wood sounds came back, and it was like time had started again. And I laid there for a while just savoring the moment, and then I didn't know how much time had gone by, so I thought I better go back. And when I went back, there was, oh, there you are. And then there was, you did this on purpose just to get attention. And where'd you go? And so I said, well, I went to this place and I found this boulder and I laid on it. And then this deer came out. And both of my siblings were like, you're lying. You're lying. You didn't do that. You didn't. There's no such thing. And when I went, I wanted to show them, but they wouldn't let me. But we went fishing there again another time years later, and I tried to find the same spot, and I couldn't. But, yeah, they just called me, my siblings called me a liar. And my mom was worried. And my dad was like, don't go wandering off anymore. So that was kind of the reception I got. And it was okay because I had the deer in the woods. Now recently, I went on a hike with a bunch of friends to a place that I wanted to check out. We didn't get to see the caves. We hiked a long way on the wrong trail to try to find a cave. And we missed the actual place. And it would have been a lot shorter hike if we had read the signs that took us to the cave. But my favorite person came with me, and they had a similar experience. They didn't, when they were by themselves, like when the group kind of, somebody was going too fast, somebody was going too slow. Basically, my favorite person was going really fast and was ahead of us, or was decided to sit by the river for a little bit longer to put their shoes and socks back on because we had to traverse the river. And they sat by themselves for a while. They said when they were alone, they felt like somebody was watching them. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was supportive and nice. But when we were by a river at one point, them and another of our party found deer tracks by the river. And it was exactly what my favorite person thought, was that there was a deer somewhere nearby watching her and following her. And we found the tracks, like here and there, the same ones, but she never got to see the deer. She tried to find times to be alone on the trail to see if she could see the deer, but it never appeared to her. But the truth is, we ran out of time on the day, and so most of us are going to still be here. Some people were from out of town, but most of us are still going to be here going forward, and we're going to go back to that place to go to the caves. And maybe then my favorite person will have the opportunity to see the deer that was following it. The deers in the wilderness are sacred, whether you're native or not, or what do they say, Aborigine or original people, or Anasazi, Cherokee, Hopi, Sioux, Blackfoot, Osage. Deer are sacred, and especially when you hear the silence and time seemed to stop. That happened with my favorite person, but they didn't see the deer. They just felt it. And that's why I always say, if you feel something, it's real and it's true, and nobody can tell you it isn't. So, that is the stories of the deers in the wilderness or the deers in the woods. So if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, savor it. Ciao, Bellas.